War Chief Gorthek stood in his command tent reading the reports from his hunters. His massive frame shook with rage. 3 of his best warriors were dead. The human had killed them all and disappeared like smoke into the jungle. The other Vorthak hunters gathered around their leader. They could not believe what they were hearing. No prey species had ever killed a Vorthak warrior in combat. It was impossible. The humans were supposed to be weak and pathetic. Gorthek crushed the metal report, tablet in his clawed hands. The sound echoed through the tent like thunder. His golden scales turned dark red with anger. This insult could not stand. The honor of his clan was at stake. He ordered all remaining hunters to converge on the cave site. They would track down this human and make him pay for his crimes. But when 40 Vorthak warriors reached the rocky outcrop, they found only empty forest and the smell of death. The cave held 3 bodies that were already starting to rot in the alien heat. The hunters examined the scene carefully, trying to understand what had happened. Their comrades had been killed with primitive weapons, bullets, and a simple blade. How could such basic tools defeat advanced Vorthak warriors? The dead aliens had been carrying plasma rifles that could melt through steel. Their armor could stop most projectiles, yet they lay gutted like fish in the darkness. Gorthek studied the blood patterns and claw marks. The human had moved fast and struck without warning. He had used the cave like a trap, turning the hunters' confidence against them. This was not the behavior of frightened prey. The war chief sent out search teams in all directions. They would find this human and bring him back alive. He wanted to question the creature before feeding him to the ship's pets, but the hunters found nothing. The forest had swallowed their target completely. Hours passed without contact. Then the first team went silent. Their communication devices stopped transmitting. Other teams rushed to investigate but found only scattered equipment and strange burn marks on the trees. The second team disappeared while checking in with the ship. One moment they were reporting normal conditions. The next moment, their signals went dead. When backup arrived, they found blast craters and melted metal but no bodies. Fear began to creep into the Vorthak minds. They had never experienced anything like this. Their prey was hunting them, using tactics they did not understand. The jungle itself seemed to have turned hostile under the humans' influence. Tejo watched from the treetops as confusion spread through the alien ranks. He had spent hours studying their equipment and communication patterns. Their technology was advanced, but their tactics were primitive. They relied on brute force instead of strategy. Using skills learned in Earth's jungles, he had turned the alien forest into a death trap. Motion sensors rigged to overloaded power cells created devastating explosions. Plasma charges hidden in the purple foliage caught unwary hunters. The aliens moved in predictable patterns. They always took the easiest paths through the forest. They gathered around interesting objects without checking for traps. They talked loudly, on their communication devices giving away their positions. Each mistake cost them warriors. Tejo struck from shadows and vanished before they could react. He used their own weapons against them. Their plasma rifles became bombs. Their communication devices became tracking beacons. Their confidence became their weakness. By sunset, 12 more Vorthak were dead. The survivors huddled together in small groups. They jumped at every sound. The mighty hunters had become frightened animals afraid of their own shadows. Gorthek tried to maintain discipline by declaring the human was using coward tactics. He said real warriors fought face to face, not from hiding, but his words rang hollow as more teams failed to report in. The war chief began monitoring all communications personally. He heard the fear in his warriors' voices. They spoke in whispers about ghost killers and shadow demons. Some wanted to return to the ship and abandon the hunt. This made Gorthek even angrier. His clan had a reputation to maintain. They were known across the galaxy as the fiercest hunters. If word spread that they had been defeated by one human, their enemies would mock them forever. He ordered the remaining teams to stay close together and sweep the forest systematically. No more small groups, no more individual hunting. They would move like an army and crush this human through overwhelming force. But Tejo was ready for this change in tactics. He had anticipated their response. From his hidden position, he watched 25 Vorthak warriors form into a battle line. They advanced through the jungle like they were invading a planet. The soldier smiled coldly. These aliens still did not understand what they were fighting. Human military doctrine emphasized adaptation and flexibility. While they changed their formation, he had already changed his entire strategy. Hidden throughout the forest were dozens of improvised explosive devices. Each one was made from alien technology but guided by human ingenuity. The Vorthak were walking into the largest ambush in their species' history. Taiho triggered the first explosion when the aliens reached the center of his kill zone. A massive blast sent 3 Vorthak flying through the air. Their scales could not protect them. From their own overloaded technology, chaos erupted as more bombs detonated in sequence. The tight formation became a liability. As aliens stumbled into each other, trying to escape plasma fire, lit up the jungle as panicked warriors shot at shadows through. The smoke and confusion, Taiho moved like death itself. His captured weapons found their marks again and again. Aliens fell screaming as bullets tore through their ranks. The proud hunters had become prey in their own trap. When the explosions stopped, only 15 Vorthak remained alive. They stood in a circle back to back, their weapons pointing in all directions. Their golden scales had turned pale with terror. Gorthek's voice crackled over their communication devices. He demanded to know what was happening. But none of the survivors could explain how one human had destroyed half their hunting party in minutes. The war chief realized he was no longer dealing with normal prey. This human fought like something from their oldest nightmares, the legendary death-bringers that some species whispered about in fear. In the growing darkness of the alien night, Taiho prepared for the next phase of his campaign. The hunters were broken but not defeated. He needed to rescue his people from the slave ship. The real battle was still ahead, but first he would finish what these aliens had started. They had come to his forest to hunt humans. Now they would learn why that was the worst mistake in their species' history. The golden-scaled Vorthak stepped into the cave with complete confidence. His 4 yellow eyes scanned the darkness looking for the cowering human. He expected begging and tears. Instead, Taiho's combat knife sliced across his throat before he could blink. Purple blood sprayed across the cave walls. The alien made a gurgling sound as he fell backward. His big gun clattered on the rocky floor. His golden scales turned dark as life left his body. The other 2 Vorthak stood frozen in shock. For hundreds of years, these aliens had hunted across the galaxy. They had captured thousands of different species, never had prey fought back. Never had any creature killed a Vorthak warrior. They did not know how to react to this new situation. Taiho rolled behind a rock as the second alien finally raised his weapon. The green energy beam hit the cave wall where his head had been. The stone turned to melted glass from the heat, but the human was already moving. His pistol barked twice in the enclosed space. The bullets punched through the alien's chest. The creature looked down at the holes in surprise. Purple blood leaked out like thick syrup. He fell forward and did not move again. The third Vorthak finally understood what was happening. The human was not prey. The human was a killer. This changed everything. The alien tried to back away while raising his gun, but Taiho was faster. The bullet caught the alien between his 4 eyes. His head snapped back and he collapsed. The 3 mighty hunters were dead in less than 30 seconds. They had never stood a chance against a trained human warrior. Taiho dragged himself to the cave entrance and looked outside. No more aliens were coming yet. He had time to work. He pulled the dead Vorthak into the cave and started taking their equipment. Their guns were too big for human hands, but he could use the power cells. The aliens had communication devices that looked like metal bracelets. They also carried medical supplies in small pouches. He found something that looked like healing gel and spread it on his wounded leg. The alien medicine worked fast. The bleeding stopped and the pain became manageable. He could walk normally again. The communication device was making sounds. Other Vorthak were trying to contact the dead hunters. Taiho listened carefully. He was starting to understand their language. They spoke in growls and clicks, but some words were similar to human languages. From what he could understand, there were 40 more Vorthak, scattered across the jungle. They were all hunting for him. They thought he was still a helpless victim running scared. They had no idea their three best hunters were already dead. The aliens were reporting back to their big ship in orbit. They were telling their friends about the fun hunt. They were making bets on who would capture the human first. They talked about the other humans locked up in their prison cells. Tejo felt his anger growing hotter. These monsters had his people. They were treating human beings like animals to be sold. His friends from the diplomatic mission were probably scared and hurt. The aliens were planning to sell them at something called the Grand Market. He studied the alien weapons more carefully. The power cells could be overloaded to make bombs. The communication devices could be hacked if he was smart enough. He started forming a plan in his mind. The Vorthak thought they were playing a game. They had spread out across the forest to make the hunt more interesting. Each one wanted to be the hero who caught the last human. They were competing with each other instead of working together. This was their mistake. Tejo had been trained in guerrilla warfare. He knew how to fight against larger numbers. He knew how to turn an enemy's confidence against them. The aliens were about to learn some hard lessons. He dragged the bodies deeper into the cave and covered them with rocks. Then he gathered everything useful and prepared to leave. The real fight was just beginning. These three dead aliens were just the first payment. Outside the cave, he could hear alien voices in the distance. More hunters were coming to investigate. They would find their dead friends soon. Then they would realize the human was not running anymore. The human was hunting them. Tejo checked his weapons and equipment one more time. His pistol still had ammunition. The alien power cells were fully charged. His knife was clean and sharp. His grandfather's dog tags hung around, his neck like a promise. He thought about the other humans on the alien ship. Captain Lee Minho had been the leader of their mission. He was a good man who believed in peace. Tejo respected him, but diplomacy had failed. Now it was time for war. The soldier slipped out of the cave and into the purple jungle. He moved like a ghost between the strange trees. His training took over and he became invisible. The aliens would look for him, but they would not find him until he wanted to be found. Behind him, three dead Vorthak lay cooling in the darkness. They had learned too late that humans were not prey. They were predators who had been pretending to be civilized. The pretending was over now. The jungle would become Tejo's hunting ground. He would use everything these aliens had taught him about their technology against them. He would make them afraid to walk in their own forest. He would show them what human soldiers could do when they stopped holding back. 20 humans were counting on him, even if they did not know it yet. He would not let them down. He would not let these aliens sell his people like cattle. The Vorthak had started this fight, but a United States soldier was going to finish it. The hunt was over. The war had begun, and the aliens were about to discover why humans had become the most dangerous species in their own galaxy. Even wounded and alone, Tejo was more than a match for their entire hunting party. He disappeared into the glowing forest like smoke. The next time the Vorthak saw him, it would be the last thing many of them ever saw. The wounded American soldier had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before, a human unleashed. Kim Tejo dragged his broken body through the thick alien forest. His left leg was torn apart and bleeding badly. The American soldier had been walking for 3 hours since the crash. His uniform was ripped and dirty. Blood dripped from cuts on his face and arms. The transport ship had been carrying 20 humans to meet with alien leaders. It was supposed to be a peaceful mission, the first time humans would talk to the big galactic government. But everything went wrong. The Vorthak slavers attacked without warning. Their big black ships came out of nowhere. They destroyed the human ships with green laser beams. Tejo remembered the screams of his friends as the ship broke apart. He was thrown out during the crash. His body hit the ground, hard, but he was still alive. Everyone else was captured by the aliens. He was the only one who got away. Now he was alone on this strange planet. The trees here were not like Earth trees. They had purple leaves that glowed softly in the dim light. The ground was covered with blue grass that felt spongy under his feet. Strange sounds came from the forest. Animals he had never seen before. Everything smelled different, like metal and flowers mixed together. Behind him, He could hear the Vorthak hunters. They were following his blood trail and laughing. These aliens were 8 feet tall with thick scales that changed colors. Their faces looked like lizards, but with 4 yellow eyes. They carried big silver guns that shot green fire. Tejo had seen them before. During the attack, they moved like they owned the galaxy. They thought humans were weak and stupid. The way they laughed reminded him of bullies back home. But these bullies could kill him easily if they caught him. His leg was getting worse. The pain shot up his body with every step he needed to find somewhere to hide and rest. He looked around and saw a small cave and some rocks. It was not much, but it would have to do. He crawled inside and collapsed against the back wall. His breathing was loud and harsh. He tried to be quiet, but his body needed air. He checked his gear. 1 pistol with 2 clips left, 1 combat knife. His grandfather's old dog tags that he always carried for luck. That was all he had. Through a crack in the rock, he could see 3 Vorthak coming closer. They moved slowly like they were enjoying the hunt. One of them was bigger than the others with golden scales covering his body. This one seemed to be the leader. The big alien spoke in broken English. He had learned it from other human prisoners. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. He called out to Tejo like he was talking to a scared animal. He said the human should come out and make it easier for everyone. The other 2 aliens laughed. At this, they made jokes about how pathetic humans were, how they always ran and hid instead of fighting like real warriors. They talked about the other humans they had captured, how they cried and begged for mercy before being put in chains. Tejo felt anger building in his chest. These aliens had attacked innocent people. They had destroyed the peace mission. They were planning to sell his friends as slaves. His hands tightened around his pistol. He was a United States soldier. He had sworn an oath to protect American citizens. The lead alien kept talking. He said they would make Tejo's death quick if he surrendered. They promised it would not hurt much. They were being generous because he had given them a good chase. But if he made them work harder, they would make him suffer before the end. The soldier thought about his training. He had fought in 3 wars on Earth. He had survived in jungles and deserts. He had faced enemies who wanted to kill him before, but those were human enemies. These aliens thought they were better than humans. They thought they were the top predators in the galaxy. Tejo smiled in the darkness of the cave. His drill sergeant used to say that a cornered animal was the most dangerous kind. A wounded soldier was even worse. These aliens had made a big mistake. They thought they were hunting prey, but they had just woken up a predator. He checked his pistol 1 more time. The safety was off. A round was in the chamber. His knife was sharp and ready. His grandfather had carried these dog tags through World War II. He had fought the Japanese in the Pacific and came home alive. Now it was Tejo's turn to fight. The aliens were getting closer. He could smell them now. They smelled like rotting fish and old metal. Their scales made scraping sounds as they moved. The leader was almost at the cave entrance. His golden scales were bright in the alien sunlight. Through his cracked helmet, Tejo watched them approach. They held their big guns carelessly. They were not expecting a fight. They thought the human was helpless and scared. They had no idea what kind of enemy they were facing. The big alien stepped into the cave opening. He expected to find a cowering human begging for his life. Instead, he found a United States soldier who was done running. The human war was about to come to this alien world, and these hunters were about to learn why humans had survived so long in a dangerous universe. Tejo took a deep breath and prepared to strike. His body hurt, but his mind was clear. His training kicked in and the fear went away. He was not Kim Tejo, the scared survivor, anymore. He was Staff Sergeant Kim Tejo of the United States Army, and he was about to show these aliens what humans could do when they stopped being nice. The cave was about to become the first battlefield in a war that would shake the galaxy. The aliens thought they were hunting a wounded animal, but the animal had claws and it was ready to use them. The hunt was over. Now came the killing. The golden-scaled alien took another step into the cave. He was smiling, showing rows of sharp teeth. He raised his big gun and prepared to capture his prize. But the prize had other ideas. The wounded American soldier was about to become something much more dangerous, a human at war. The Vorthak slave ship Bone Crusher hung in space like a metal mountain. Captain Lee Minho sat in chains listening to the panicked radio chatter from the planet below. The alien crew was no longer laughing about their hunting party. 19 other humans shared the prison cell with him. They were diplomats, scientists, and trade negotiators who had come in peace. Now they were merchandise waiting to be sold at the grand market through the cell's energy bars. Minho could see Vorthak guards running. Through the corridors, their scales flickered with stress colors. Something he had learned meant they were afraid. But what could make these monsters afraid? The answer came through fragments of alien conversation. One human was still free on the surface. One American soldier was killing their hunters with primitive weapons. The mighty Vorthak were being hunted like animals in their own forest, down on the planet. Taiho crouched in a tree, watching the remaining aliens argue among themselves. 15 survivors out of 43. The hunting party was broken but not finished. Their leader was coming down from the ship to take control. War Chief Gorthek descended from the sky in a small shuttlecraft. His massive form was covered in advanced combat, armor that shimmered like liquid metal. He carried weapons that could level buildings. The war chief gathered his surviving hunters around the shuttle. His voice boomed across the jungle as he spoke of honor and revenge. He called the human a coward, who used tricks instead of fighting like a warrior. Taiho almost laughed at this. These aliens had attacked a peaceful diplomatic mission with overwhelming force. They hunted unarmed humans for sport and sold them as slaves, but they called him a coward for fighting back. He had been listening to their communications for hours using devices stolen from dead hunters. Their language was becoming easier to understand. The aliens were planning to carpet bomb the entire jungle to flush him out. This would not work. The forest was too large and he was too well hidden, but it showed they were getting desperate. The proud hunters were ready to destroy everything, rather than admit defeat by a single human. From his hiding spot, Taiho could see the shuttle's communication array. It was linked directly to the slave ship. He needed that connection to complete his mission. Saving himself was not enough. He had to rescue the other humans. But first, he needed intelligence about the ship's defenses and layout. The Vorthak were careful not to discuss sensitive information over open channels. He would have to capture one of them alive. The youngest hunter in Gorthek's group was positioned near the jungle edge away from the others. He looked nervous and kept glancing at the shadows. His scales showed the pale colors of fear. Taiho moved through the trees like a ghost. Centuries of human evolution had made him a perfect predator in forest environments. The Vorthak were ambush hunters from open plains. They were out of their element here. He dropped silently behind the young alien and pressed his knife to the creature's throat. The Vorthak tried to scream, but Taiho's hand covered his mouth. The human dragged his prisoner deeper into the jungle away from the other hunters. Taiho began his interrogation. He had learned these techniques from CIA trainers who understood that information was more valuable than revenge. The alien broke quickly under pressure through a mixture of threats and alien medical drugs. The Vorthak told him everything. The Bone Crusher carried a crew of 200. They were slavers who raided primitive worlds for the grand market. The human prisoners were held in maximum security cells on level 5. The ship's weapons could destroy entire cities, but they were designed for attacking planets, not defending against boarding parties. Most importantly, the young alien revealed the ship's shuttle schedules. Supply runs happened every 12 hours. The next one would launch in 6 hours, carrying food and equipment to the surface hunting party. Taiho smiled as a plan formed in his mind. The aliens had given him everything he needed to reach the ship. Their own shuttle would carry him into space. Their own arrogance would open the door. He left the interrogated alien tied up but alive. The creature would eventually escape and warn the others, but by then it would be too late. The human would already be aboard their precious ship back at the shuttle. Landing site. Gorthek was growing impatient. His remaining hunters spread out in a defensive perimeter, but they moved like scared children instead of proud warriors. The human had broken their spirit. The war chief activated the ship's communication system and spoke to his crew. He ordered them to prepare the orbital bombardment weapons. They would burn the entire continent if necessary to kill this human. But his orders would never be carried out. Taiho was already moving toward his real target. The forest had been his training ground. Now he would take the fight to the enemy's stronghold in space. He gathered every piece of alien technology he had salvaged. Power cells that could be turned into bombs, communication devices that could jam enemy signals. Weapons designed to kill his own species. The shuttle to the Bone Crusher would launch exactly on schedule. It would carry supplies, weapons, and one very dangerous passenger. The crew would never suspect that their own transport had become a weapon. Taiho checked his grandfather's dog tags one more time. The old soldier had fought across the Pacific Ocean island by island. Now his grandson would fight across spaceship by ship. The aliens thought they were safe in their metal fortress. They believed humans were too primitive to threaten them in space, but they had never faced a United States soldier who refused to surrender. In 6 hours, the real war would begin. The forest had been just the opening battle. Soon the slavers would learn why humans had become the most feared warriors in their own galaxy. The wounded American soldier was about to become something more than a survivor. He was about to become the nightmare that would haunt alien slave markets for generations to come. The shuttle's engines were already warming up. The crew had no idea they were about to transport death itself into the heart of their operation. The hunt was ending, but the killing had just begun. The stolen Vorthak shuttle screamed through space toward the Bone Crusher. Taiho had rigged every piece of alien technology into one massive bomb, guided by his own hands. The crew thought it was their regular supply run. Inside the cargo hold, the human soldier checked his weapons one final time. Captured plasma rifles hung across his back. Improvised explosives filled his belt pouches. His combat knife gleamed in the shuttle's dim lighting. The ship's docking bay opened automatically to receive the expected supplies. The Bone Crusher was massive, stretching for miles in every direction. Its black hull bristled with weapons designed to destroy planets. Alarms should have screamed when the shuttle's cargo doors opened. But the Vorthak had grown lazy after centuries of easy raids. They expected no resistance from the species they considered food. Taiho rolled out of the cargo bay and immediately opened fire on the shocked dock workers. Purple blood splattered across the metal walls as aliens fell screaming. The peaceful supply run had become a one-man invasion. The ship's corridors were wide and dramatic, designed to intimidate prisoners being brought aboard. The high ceilings and ornate decorations now worked against the defenders. Taiho used every shadow, every alcove as cover. Security forces rushed toward the docking bay, but found themselves facing tactics they could not understand. The human moved like liquid death through their own ship, using their design against them. Blast doors that were meant to contain prisoners became choke points where aliens died in groups. Emergency lighting that was supposed to prevent panic cast. Perfect shadows for an invisible killer. Taiho moved through ventilation systems that were built too large for efficiency but perfect for human infiltration. He emerged from maintenance shafts that no Vorthak had ever thought to guard. Every lesson from urban warfare on Earth found new purpose in the metal maze of the alien vessel building clearing. Techniques worked perfectly on spaceship corridors. Room by room, he advanced toward his goal. The ship's gravity generators became weapons when he overloaded their power systems. Aliens found themselves floating helplessly as their own technology turned against them. Taiho moved through zero gravity like he was born for it. Within the first hour, 50 Vorthak crew members were dead. The rest fled deeper into the ship, abandoning their posts. Emergency broadcasts filled the communication channels, but no help was coming. Captain Lee Minho heard the explosions getting closer to the detention level. He could not believe what his ears were telling him. Someone was fighting their way through the entire ship. The impossible was happening. The other human prisoners pressed against their cell doors, listening to the sounds of battle. They heard plasma fire and alien screams. The corridor lights flickered as power systems failed throughout the ship. Then they saw him. Staff Sergeant Kim Taiho appeared, like an avenging angel covered in purple blood and carrying alien weapons. His face was hard as stone. His eyes burned with righteous fury. The prison guards had already fled when the fighting reached their level. They abandoned their posts rather than face whatever was killing their crewmates. Taiho found the detention area almost empty. He used captured alien tools to tear through the energy barriers that held his people. The cells opened one by one, revealing 19 frightened but hopeful faces they could barely recognize their protector. Minho stared at the soldier he had known as a quiet professional. The man before him had been transformed by combat into something fierce and terrible. He moved like death itself wrapped in human skin, but there was no time for reunion. The ship's self-destruct system had been activated. War Chief Gorthek would rather destroy his own vessel than let humans escape. The Bone Crusher had become a flying bomb. Taiho quickly explained the situation to the freed prisoners. They had minutes to reach the escape pods before the ship exploded. He led them through corridors filled with smoke and the sounds of dying aliens. The way to the escape pod bays was blocked by the ship's remaining security forces. 50 Forthak warriors in full combat armor. They had gathered for one final stand between the humans and freedom. This was exactly what Taiho had been waiting for. All his rage and training focused on this moment. The aliens had taken innocent people and planned to sell them as slaves. Now they would pay the price. He told the other humans to stay behind cover while he cleared the way. They watched in amazement as their protector advanced alone against impossible odds. His weapons never seemed to run out of ammunition. The battle was brutal and decisive. Taiho used everything the aliens had taught him about their technology against them. Their own ship became a weapon in his hands. Every system turned lethal under human ingenuity when the smoke cleared. The corridor was full of alien bodies. The path to the escape pods was open. The other humans ran toward safety, while Taiho stayed behind to finish his mission. The ship's bridge still held the key to his ultimate goal. He needed to send a message that would echo across the galaxy. The Bone Crusher would become humanity's declaration of war against all slavers. Captain Minho tried to convince him to evacuate with the others, but Taiho refused. He had one more job to complete. The galaxy needed to learn what happened when humans were pushed too far. The escape pods launched just as the ship's power core began overloading. 20 human survivors drifted toward the planet's surface, while behind them, the Bone Crusher prepared for its final transformation. In the ship's command center, Taiho sat at the communication console. His message would reach every corner of known space, every slave market, every raider, every alien who preyed on the weak. The wounded American soldier had kept his promise to protect his people. Now he would make sure no other humans suffered the same fate. The galaxy was about to learn a new fear of the species that refused to surrender, fear of the warriors who came for their own fear of humanity unleashed in all its terrible glory. The age of easy raids on Earth was over. The Bone Crusher's destruction would be visible from a dozen star systems. Its death would carry Taiho's warning to every predator in space. Humans were no longer prey, they had become the hunters. War Chief Gorthek stood on the bridge of his dying ship watching his crew abandon their posts. The great Bone Crusher was falling apart around him. Emergency lights flashed red as system after system failed. Through the smoke and sparks he saw a figure approaching. The human walked calmly through the chaos like he owned the ship. His weapons were ready, but his face showed no fear, only cold determination. The war chief finally understood what his people had unleashed. This was not just a soldier. This was humanity's answer to those who would enslave their children. Every warning about human potential stood before him in flesh and blood. Gorthek drew his ceremonial battle blade, a weapon forged from the metals of 1,000 conquered worlds. He had killed champions from dozens of species with this sword, but he had never faced anything like this human. The final battle took place among the ruins of the command center. Broken alien technology sparked around them as the two warriors circled each other. The ship groaned and shuddered as its death approached. Gorthek was 8 feet of muscle and scale enhanced by alien technology and centuries of combat experience, but Taiho had been forged in the crucible of human warfare. He knew things the alien could never understand. The war chief struck first, his blade whistling through the air fast enough to cut steel. But the human was not there. The soldier moved like water flowing around the attack and striking back with deadly precision. Alien. Blood splashed across broken control panels as Taiho's knife found gaps in the ceremonial armor. The warchief roared in pain and fury, swinging his massive sword in desperate arcs. But human combat doctrine emphasized speed and efficiency over brute. Strength Taiho had fought enemies who wanted to kill him in 3 different wars. He knew how to end fights quickly and permanently. The alien's sword clattered across the deck as his arm went numb from severed nerves. His golden scales were turning, dark with blood. His 4 eyes dimmed as shock set in. Gorthek fell to his knees among the wreckage of his command throne. With his last breath, the warchief asked why one human had been able to destroy his entire operation. Taiho looked down at the dying alien and spoke words that would echo through galactic history. Because you made it personal when you took my people. The human soldier moved to the ship's main communication array and began broadcasting on all frequencies. His message would reach every corner of known space from the core worlds to the outer rim. He identified himself as Staff Sergeant Kim Taiho, representing the United States of America and the human species. His voice was calm, but carried the weight of absolute conviction. Message was simple but terrifying. Any species that targeted human beings for slavery would face the same fate as the Bone Crusher and its crew. The galaxy had been warned using the ship's databases. Taiho downloaded the locations of dozens of slave, markets, and raider bases. Information that would help Earth's future military operations across space. He destroyed the ship's slaving equipment and freed the navigation data that revealed other raider fleets. Years of Vorthak operations were erased. In minutes, their criminal empire crumbled with each deleted file. Before abandoning the bridge, Taiho programmed the ship's final message. A warning beacon that would broadcast humanity's declaration to every vessel that came near the wreckage. The escape pods carrying the human survivors were already reaching the planet's atmosphere. They could see the Bone Crusher beginning to break apart in orbit. Its death throes lit up space like a new star captain. Minho watched through his pod's viewport as their ship killer prepared to die with his victim. The soldier had refused evacuation, choosing to ensure their message reached the galaxy. But Taiho was not planning to die today. He had found a single-person escape pod hidden in the captain's quarters. Emergency equipment meant for cowards was perfect for completing his mission. He launched just as the ship's power core reached critical mass. The Bone Crusher exploded behind him, its destruction visible from 100 light-years away. The slaver's flagship had become humanity's beacon. The pod's radio crackled with intercepted alien transmissions. News of the attack was spreading across the galaxy. Slave markets were closing, raider fleets were retreating to safer hunting grounds. In the criminal underworld of 1,000 worlds, a new phrase began to spread like wildfire. Beware the humans, they do not forgive and they do not forget. Taiho's pod descended through the alien atmosphere toward the purple jungle where his war had begun. The wounded American soldier had become something more than human in those dark trees. He had become a legend that would make slavers think twice before targeting anyone from Earth. The galaxy now knew that humanity would protect its own, no matter the cost. As his pod touched down near the crash site where everything began, Taiho cleaned his grandfather's dog tags with alien blood. The old soldier had carried them through World War II. Now his grandson had carried them through humanity's first war among the stars. The message was clear across space and time. Americans did not leave their people behind. The diplomatic mission had failed, but something more important had been achieved. The galaxy's predators now knew there were bigger predators watching over Earth's children. In his pod, Taiho opened a communication channel to Earth Command. His report would change everything. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and they were definitely not defenseless. The wounded soldier looked up at the alien stars and smiled grimly. The Vorthak had wanted to hunt humans for sport. Instead, they had awakened something that would hunt them for justice. The alien jungle was quiet now. The purple trees swayed gently in the evening breeze. No more Vorthak voices disturbed the peace. The hunters had become the hunted and none remained alive. Taiho activated his emergency beacon and waited for rescue ships from Earth would come. Eventually, they would find a planet cleansed of slavers, and a soldier who had kept his oath. His communication device crackled with messages from across the galaxy. Alien species were discussing the human attack. Some called it terrorism. Others called it a warning. All of them were afraid. The Galactic Council would demand explanations. Earth's diplomats would have difficult questions to answer. But the message had been sent clearly enough. Any species that enslaved humans would pay in blood in the growing darkness. Taiho thought about the 19 people he had saved. They were heading home to their families because one wounded soldier had refused to quit. The mission was complete. His grandfather's dog tags caught the light of alien moons. 3 generations of American soldiers had fought to protect innocent people. Now the battlefield had expanded beyond Earth. The galaxy was vast and full of predators. But they had learned today that humans were not prey. Humanity had teeth and claws hidden beneath their peaceful exterior staff. Sergeant Kim, Taiho closed his eyes and listened to the sound of wind through purple leaves. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats to human freedom somewhere among the stars. But tonight, the galaxy was a little safer. 20 humans were going home, and every slaver in known space would remember the name of the wounded American soldier who had wiped them all out.